What's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of DC and RC. I'm Daniel Cormier. Hey, it's been a while since I called myself the double champ. So I'm the double champ, Daniel Cormier. That's my boy, Super Bowl champ, Ryan Clark. RC, how you feeling, my boy?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm telling you what, I'm feeling even better after I got to watch Khamzat Chimaev and Gilbert Burns go toe-to-toe, man. I think that's what we were waiting on. And it was also kind of what the card needed to really get a jump start, DC, because up until that point, we didn't have many exciting fights.
It was kind of bad. And we will discuss that amongst many other things. Also, on this show, we will be joined by Gilbert Burns, who fought so valiantly this weekend against Khamzat Chimaev, and we'll speak to Triple C. So we'll do one of our favorite segments, DC, RC, and Triple C, because he always brings the fire when he comes on the show. But Ryan, you alluded to it. Khamzat Chimaev, Gilbert Burns was the fight that many were looking forward to when we went into the weekend. It absolutely delivered.
Man.
Some say it delivered above the title fights. It overshadowed it building into it, and it overshadowed it on the actual night. When you look back on that fight, when you think back on that fight, how satisfying was it to see Gilbert Burns fight in the way that he did, even though he lost, and we saw Khamzat challenge in the way that we needed to see to find out if he truly is elite of the elite.
You know, that was what that fight was about. One, you got to think of the courage and the bravery of Gilbert Burns. This is a guy who's number 2 ranked in the world. He didn't have to take that fight. And there were many people that were in between 11 and 2 that didn't want to fight with Khamzat Chimaev. And for him to stand toe-to-toe, he gets taken down in the early rounds or in the first round. He fights his way back to his feet. And then we really don't see Khamzat Chimaev wrestle or grapple the rest of the fight. He drops Khamzat Chimaev. Everybody's bleeding. And, really, when you go into the third round, it's either man's fight. And we watched them go toe-to-toe, nobody back down. I think Gilbert Burns in that fight, is one of those rare occasions where you gain respect for the loser. You look at the guy who lost the fight and you say, no, he shouldn't drop far in the rankings. Yes, he still should be in championship contention. He still is one of the elite fighters in the world. And then on the other side, we got to see Khamzat Chimaev pushed. We got to see Khamzat Chimaev hurt. And it was funny, DC, I was thinking about Rocky. And obviously the fight was never like Drago and Rocky. But when Khamzat Chimaev started to bleed, I was like, see, he is a man. He is a man. He can bleed too. And so it was cool to see that, you know what I mean? And I think, a guy like you who was also a champion can really respect 2 men going toe-to-toe in that manner. And there wasn't even a belt on the line.
Very rarely do you go into a fight where there are so many questions on both sides, right? Can Gilbert Burns stand up to what has become the big bad boogeyman in Khamzat Chimaev? Is Khamzat Chimaev really that guy? Look, we found out Saturday. We found out every single thing we needed to know. Gilbert Burns is still the elite of the elite. Yeah. And I don't know why it was ever in question. The only way it looked like it was in question, RC, was because the odds were stacked so heavily against them. But obviously, that's why we play the game. They always say that's why we play the game. Well, Khamzat Chimaev is the real deal because he got pushed. This dude had fought 4 times, and he got hit 4 times. He got hit so much last Saturday. He got taken to places that he never intended to go, especially not to this point in his career. It's still early. It's still very early for a young fighter. And he fought the number 2 guy in the world. He got his hand raised, and he also was able to go through the fire in the sense that he got dropped, he was pressed, he was pushed, and he still won the fight unanimously across the board, I believe. I think it was 29-28 all, or did somebody score the fight for Gilbert Burns? I'm not exactly sure. I was watching with a whole bunch of Armenians, and they were all kind of hoping Khamzat won. So I wasn't able to really say, it was a weird situation. But it was a fantastic fight, and both of these guys raised their stock in a fight where it absolutely delivered. Very rarely does a fight have that much hype on it, Ryan, and it exceeds the expectation. I thought that one did that.
DC, do you believe, though, that the hype was more about who Khamzat Chimaev could be and that he would actually either be tested or we'd watch him dominate Gilbert Burns. And in watching that fight for you, how do you now view Khamzat Chimaev as it pertains to someone like a Kobe Covington or the champion Kamaru Usman?
If I'm being honest, I honestly give him more value. It's
Mm,
so absurd that people are saying he was exposed. Exposed for what? Exposed for what? You just got in the game, right? Your highest level fight was against Li Jingliang. And because of the way that you beat him, you got pushed all the way up the rankings to the number 2 guy in the world who
right.
had just beaten Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who had fought for the championship against Kamaru Usman. He was not exposed, Ryan. He was not exposed. If anything, he was proven further to be a guy that is very dangerous as he gets closer and closer to the top of the division. Because now, if Dana is successful in making him and Covington, then you would imagine that he's one more win from fighting for a championship. If he can fight in the way that he did last weekend, if he can show the heart that he did to
Yeah.
get through the situations that he got himself into last weekend, this is a guy that will be a challenge for the champ, Kamaru Usman. But no, his stock did not drop at all because so many times we see these hot prospects, RC, get tested and they wilt and they quit and they
Right.
crumble. He didn't do that. He kept pressing and he got the job done. Hats off to Khamzat.
Yeah, I think, what was amazing to me in watching it, DC, was the few times, Gilbert landed significant strikes and Khamzat would just wave his hands like, come on. And,
Yeah.
I always wonder when I'm watching you guys, is that a little, we used to call it fifi, right? We used to call it false enthusiasm. When really want something or you're not really excited about something, but you fake it so everybody else feels it. So I'm watching him thinking, does he really want Gilbert Burns to keep coming forward? Does he really want to continue getting hit? And that was important to me for people to see because we had never seen him hurt. I mean, hell, we've barely seen him get any strikes landed on him in the UFC. And so to see him take in the deep water, to see him touched up extremely early, I thought that was what people needed from Khamzat Chimaev. Like to dominate DC and to beat people the way that he has early on in his UFC career is cool, right? But what do we always say about our greats? We like to see them go through wars. We want to see some of that adversity. And so DC, is it, when you look at the way he won the fight against Gilbert Burns, I can't believe that going into it, that's what his coaches and trainers wanted, that they wanted an entirely stand-up striking match. Are you surprised that he was able to win in the fashion that he did?
Not surprised. For so long, he has relied on the wrestling. That's why he's been so dominant, taking people down and smashing them. Wasn't surprised because if you look at their stature, if you look at the size of both men, you would imagine that Khamzat, he's the bigger guy, he's the longer guy, he's the younger guy. He would hold a lot of the advantages in the striking. Gilbert Burns is a grappler. He is a jiu-jitsu-based fighter from the very beginning of his career. Now, has he developed into a world-class striker? Yes. But he was a jiu-jitsu guy. Khamzat is a big wrestler, but he has shown on multiple occasions massive power in his hands.
Yeah.
So I wasn't surprised. I was surprised that the fight went as long as it did, and he wasn't able to get him out of there, especially when he hurt him. When he hurt him with the jab and he dropped him, I thought he would back off and he would get back to trying to land that punch, but he never seemed to go back to it. He was content with being in the battle and he threw a lot of uppercuts in tight and just kind of loading up to try to get Gil out there, when in reality, he hurt Gilbert when he really just let it flow and he landed that monster jab that put him on his butt.
So when we look at, obviously, Kamaru Usman beat Gilbert Burns in very impressive fashion. I believe that this was an impressive fight by Khamzat Chimaev as well. But sometimes when the picture becomes clearer, you become less excited. Are you still as excited about seeing a Khamzat Chimaev challenge Kamaru Usman? Or after watching that fight against Gilbert Burns, are you like, maybe that's not the smoke he wants right now?
What's crazy is I want to see the Covington fight now. Take nothing away from his performance last weekend, but I need to see the Covington fight before I see him and Kamaru Usman, because I just believe that on his journey, he needs to cross one more hurdle. Because before it was all systems go towards the champ. But now I think after watching last week and watching some of the areas in which he struggled a little bit, I would like to see him go in there with a Colby Covington, a guy who's going to press him for 25 minutes, a guy that's going to wrestle him for 25 minutes, and a guy that has been proven without a shadow of a doubt to be 1B in the welterweight division. Let's see him cross that hurdle. Is that a knock on Khamzat? No. But I do need to see a little bit more after last weekend. Also, not only for his physical approach, Ryan, but also the mental. Because we saw Khamzat drop Gilbert with the jab. We saw Usman finish Gilbert with the jab. Why was he not aware to go back to the well when it landed so effectively and he hurt him in the way that he did? So want to see the fight against Colby Covington as he gets ready to fight for a championship. But he was only part of the equation, Ryan. The other half of the fight was Gilbert Burns. And right now it's time to be joined by Durinho, Gilbert Burns. If there was someone whose stock went up in defeat and truly did show that he is one of the elite, it was Gilbert Durinho Burns. And now he joins us for one round with Durinho. Gilbert Burns, a few days removed from a fantastic fight, my friend. How are you feeling?
Feel good, brother. Feel good. Heart hurts a little bit because for sure I'm thankful all the fans, everybody saying, but that fight was very winnable and I lost, very winnable. Got super close. But got a win bonus, got this, got that, but I lost, that wasn't the goal. But I'm still happy with the performance, put in a show and showing everybody that the guy is not a Superman. There's nothing crazy about this guy. He can get hurt and drop him a couple times, but it is what it is,
You look back on making the decision to fight Khamzat Chimaev when a lot of people didn't want to fight him, Gilbert, and you were the number 2 ranked fighter in your weight division, and it was a huge risk. Looking back on it after having such an epic fight, would you do it all over again the exact same way?
For sure. Even if I get beat up very bad, I gotta put on the line. I'm a fighter, and I'm different from these guys. These guys are like, I'm the number 2, I'm the number 5, bro, you're just a freaking number. If you're not the champion, if you're not the number 1, you just numbers, Everybody know who's the Olympic champion is, right? Oh, this guy's an Olympic champion, yeah. And who's the number 5? No one remembers that. So I'm not holding on to that position. I'm taking all the risks. I want to become a champion. And all the goal then becoming a champion is fighting the best guys. And that was done, for sure. Choose 2 steps back or becoming a champion, having another title shot, but no regrets from this fight.
Gilbert, we spoke on Friday for my YouTube channel, and you said he's not the boogeyman. He's not different. He's not going to be anything different than I've seen inside the octagon before. So when you were in there with Khamzat Chimaev, was there anything surprising in terms of something he did well or something that you may have expected him to do well that he did not do inside of the octagon?
I thought he was going to grapple more. I thought he was going to try to strike more. Freaking guy knocked me down. He got a good momentum on top. But, bro, I'm no white belt right here, bro. I'm going to keep it grappling. I'm going to keep it being offensive. A couple hundred fists, a little I lost, but was a good, arm lock attempt just to get him out of. And then I back it up. And then I'm like, oh, you don't like that, right? And I hear a couple. I have a guy from Sweden at St. MMA, and he said, "No, the coach was screaming so loud, no more wrestling, no more wrestling." No, and no, bro, stop brawling, no more wrestling. And he saw the guy stop to wrestling. So nothing. I thought he was gonna wrestle and grapple a little bit more, and but he didn't. But other than that, like I said, the only regret that I have is to accept that fight on 3 rounds. I should get that fight in 5 rounds the way I asked, and I should fight a little bit more. But they send the contract with three rounds. They call Ali. I said, "Bro, I need 5 rounds," and we fought a little bit. They say no. my regrets, I should fight a little bit
You
more.
know, it's crazy though, because now we are seeing that third right fight from the main event from the top can be a 5 round
Yeah,
fight. We saw with Nate
yeah.
Diaz, we saw with Nick Diaz when he fought. So it can be 5 rounds. And in the way that the fight was trending, it seemed as though, Ryan, maybe you agree, maybe you don't. If we go 2 more rounds, it seemed as though Dorino was the one that was building.
Yeah, maybe not. You know, I'm not. I don't want to take nothing away from Hamza. Nothing. The guy was a warrior, but bro, people will be more entertaining. We'll see who's gonna draw first. And the way I see DC, we're not done yet, bro. I'm not done with Hamza. Hamza is
Right.
not with me for sure. For sure, he gonna fight Kobe next, but I'm not done with him. I'm gonna face this guy again. Don't matter when, don't matter who. And I'm done with the 3 rounds fight you, bro. I don't want to do 3 rounds no more.
You choosing to fight longer. This guy wants to fight longer.
I
Well,
like
he looked like he could have fought all night, even though that fight was as violent and as brutal and as competitive of a fight that we had the entire night. You said after the fight, though, that you were going to look at the rankings and see how both of you guys ended up after this fight. And bringing you on, DC said you earned a ton of respect in a loss. I think you became more of a fan favorite. I think you have so many people that are behind you now. What is the next step for you? Because you keep saying you want to fight for championships. You want to fight the best. And you also just mentioned not being done with Khamzat Chimaev. What's the next step for you as you continue to try to take that journey to be the champion?
I want a big fight next. You know, I want a big fight next. I don't know when. I kind of understand if Hamza fights Kobe. You know, if Kobe accepts the fight, just putting my name out there. If Kobe don't accept, I accept. And the other thing too, the whole top 5 is busy. You know, this weekend Luke is fighting Bilal Muhammad, number 5 and number 6.
Mhm.
Number 2 now, Kobe is fighting Kamaru, and Hamza might fight Kobe. So no one in the top 5. I want a big fight. You know, maybe I know that name is always on the back of my head. It's freaking Nate Diaz. Still got one more fight in the UFC. I can put it on the contract that I'm not gonna shoot that guy. That we just gonna be on a stand up. Maybe his brother Nick. I don't know. Maybe Masvidal. I know I give a little steps backwards to the title shot. Top 5 is all busy. I want a big fight, and I think the way you just put it on, I think I deserve a big fight right now. You know, given the opportunity to this guy and put on a show that I did for sure, didn't get a win. But next, I want a big fight. You know, I think I deserve a big fight right now.
You know, you went from 2 to 4, which isn't that much of a drop. One more win, and you're right back in line with where you want to be. But over the course of the week, we saw you two have interactions, and the interactions became more and more tense as the week went on. You say that you're not done with Hamzat. Does that have anything to do with the face to face where he called you small? Did it seem like you guys were going to get after each other at the weigh-ins? Did it become a little bit more personal to Gilbert Burns as the fight got a little closer?
I try to don't let it get personal, but it did get personal, bro. Like, and then even he's saying, "Oh, his kids talk to me." My kids never talk to him, bro. Never.
Really?
And,
Because that was one of the things, right? He was like, it was hard for him because talking to your kids, he wants to fight a killer like himself when he had that feeling for your family after speaking to your children.
he fought a killer, bro, and I'm a killer, but he never talked to my kids. And in little things, he twisted, you know, like, oh, he's a mall. Yeah, he said he wanna show me your power. I freaking show my power, brother. You were you know, you in your hands there. You're doing the push-ups in the middle of the fight. So right, I lost. Okay, I lost, but you did a push-up in the middle of the fight a couple of times, and your coach like begging you to don't wrestle, you know. So I think it proved a point, and I think we're not done, bro. He said so many things. I said my only regret is that fight was in the 5 rounds. I don't want to take nothing away from him. I think I did a good job. I think I landed the powerful shots, the stats say one thing, the jersey say another thing. I don't want to put that.
So, Gil, you think you won the fight?
Yeah.
You think you won the fight?
I think we're super close. It's hard.
Yeah.
I'm not a judge. It's hard to me to say that I win. I don't want, like, again, I don't want to take nothing away from this guy. But if I were super close, we needed like 3, maybe 5 more rounds to decide that, to see who really won that fight.
What makes it so hard for you, Gilbert, to accept this loss? Is it that you just feel like you're a better fighter than Khamzat Chimaev? You just feel like you ran out of time in the 3 rounds? Why is it so hard? Why do you just keep saying, I regret losing this fight, when everybody feels like you fought so well, you fought so great, and you truly kept yourself at the top of the championship contenders?
Because that fight was very winnable. The fight was winnable. It's like, the way for me it's easy for you to explain to the guys at home is, you get a food that you just cook. You cook a meat. You went there, you marinate, you put all the sauce. You went there, you grill it, you put on point, everything stays so good. You take a little bite, you say, man, that's perfect. Whenever you're gonna bite, that food is lips on the floor, the dog catches the food you don't eat. That's my feeling, bro. I did everything. I put such a hard work. Bro, I have a psychologist, I have a nutritionist, I have my PT, I have a higher coach, a higher training partners. I put so much work to this fight, and the fight was very winnable. And I lose, and I'm very thankful to the UFC, to the fans, to the support that people giving me. But the fight was very winnable, and I didn't win. It didn't do enough. So the way I see, I'm not done with Hamza. The opportunity that I give to him, I want the opportunity back. Now that you pass me the ranks, that you're there, I'm gonna look to another shot at you whenever, I don't know, if you fight Kobe or if you fight Kamaru. I want to see this guy again, and we're not done. We got to finish it. I'm not done with Hamza.
Last question, Gil, before I let you go. You fought Kamaru Usman.
Mhm.
Khamzat Chimaev was that hot young prospect that everybody was talking about. Usman may be in trouble. This is the guy. After sharing the octagon with him, what does the fight look like between him and Usman? Like, with your opinion, him and Usman, what do you think a fight between them two look like? And do you feel, after being in there for 15 minutes with him, that he presents as many challenges as the world may have thought that he would to the champion, Kamaru Usman?
The way I see, right? I heard both guys, but one guy finished me. Yeah. That guy's Kamaru. And the guy has a freaking very high IQ as a fighter. That's what it gives to the guy. For sure, the heart, the abilities, we kind of right there, top 1, 2, we all there. We have great abilities. We have a great heart, mentality. But the IQ is the difference, I think. I think Kamaru right now has a different IQ, different experience, being under pressure so many times with the big fights. I think right now, Kamaru beats Khamzat Chimaev. The way I see, I might be wrong. We shall see. But with my opinion, being there with both guys, I did 3 rounds with both guys. One guy finished, the other don't. That's the why I see Kamaru still the best pound for pound right now in the champion of this division, because of his IQ.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, man. And thank you so much for your efforts inside that octagon last weekend, bro. You have nothing to hang your head about. I know as fighters, it's tough to move forward, but trust me, with the momentum that you took from last weekend, moving forward will be much easier for you than it may have been in the past. So congratulations again, and thank you again for joining us, Gilbert.
Man, thank you, brother. Great fight, man. Really appreciate you joining us.
For sure. Thank you, guys. Thank you, the fans. And I move forward, but I will see these guys soon.
Well, that was Gilbert Burns, man. And I think, we all gained so much respect for him for what he did this weekend, not only in taking the fight, but in fighting in the way that he did. But there was also another fight that night that was big, that people were anticipating. And it wasn't just because we had an up-and-coming fighter fighting someone that was elite and has challenged the champion. It was because we had 2 champs fighting, Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling. This was something we had been waiting on ever since the illegal knee. We've seen Petr Yan continue to win fights, continue to be big time in the weight class. He beats Corey Sandhagen and he becomes the interim champ. And many people thought the true champ. But
Yeah.
I'm sitting there Saturday night, DC, and Aljamain Sterling is dominating. Aljamain Sterling is getting takedowns whenever he wants. Aljamain Sterling has taken the back of Petr Yan in 2 rounds, and I'm shocked, and I'm trying to figure out who are these two fighters. Petr Yan, who we call the cyborg, who I feel like, you program him and it says seek and destroy, and he stays on that one path extremely calm. He almost seemed to fight angry, DC, and Aljamain Sterling understood that, and he got in his head, and he was in great shape. He moved around. He kept the motion in the octagon and then got the takedowns. When you look back on that fight, what was the thing that you expected the least that happened that night?
Honestly, RC, I spoke to Aljo last week, and his confidence was almost surprising because it looked like he was getting beat on in fight number 1. But he said, I couldn't eat. I didn't recover. My weight cut was terrible. I just was not myself. So he goes, just watch. He goes, watch me put it on this boy this weekend. Now, did he just straight out put it on this boy at times? Did Petr Yan at times put it on him? Yes.
Yeah.
It all boiled down to one round of the fight, and it was round number 1. But here's where people are so confused in regards to the scoring of this fight. We have no consistency in judging, RC.
None.
Round 2 was a 10-8 round for
10-8
Aljamain
round.
Sterling.
Yep.
Anybody with 2 eyes should be able to judge that fight 10-8 for Aljo. So if you're arguing round 1 goes to Yan, we got a draw. Aljo still keeps the title, right? Nothing changes. We're back at square one. It was a fantastic fight. Aljamain Sterling was in phenomenal shape. I mean, you can see it all the way into the buildup.
Yeah,
he
man.
looked ripped. He looked phenomenal. He fought hard. Petr got started a little bit too late, Ryan. Round 4 and 5, as he's done on so many occasions, they belong to Petr Yan. But you can't have a guy bank 3 rounds as you head into the championship rounds and think that you're going to win a title.
But
Very
DC,
competitive fight. Many people believe that could have gone the other way, but I don't think by any means there was a robbery.
But DC, you said all the time when we watch Petr Yan fight that he finds a way early on in the fight to measure his opponent. He's processing things, and then we watch him dominate late. But this is the first time we've seen someone in those rounds that he's processing really take advantage of the slow start. Was it just too much for him to overcome? Or do you feel like Petr Yan made some mistakes early on in that fight that allowed Aljamain Sterling to capitalize? And what were some of those mistakes?
You know what's crazy, Brian? This morning, Aljo texted me. I told you, right? Because we spoke. He goes, I told you. And so I called him. And he goes, I could eat food, Daniel. He goes, I ate on the day of the fight. I could keep food down. So I felt good going in there. He goes, if you look at the fight in round number 3, he goes, I smiled afterwards because I knew, dude, all I got to do is not get finished by this guy because I feel like I'm banking a 10-8 in round 2.
Right.
And I feel like I won 1 and 3. He goes, so I'm thinking about 4 rounds going into round 4. You want to talk about feeling good going into a championship round, RC, against a guy that beat you up in the first fight? If you're going to fight Petr Yan now going forward, you have to understand that there's a little bit of time, RC, to get a head start. It's like running a 100-yard dash and you let me start at the 20 because you just know you're faster. But what if on one day that person's fast enough to hold you off? That's what's happening to Petr Yan right now. He allowed for Aljo to bank rounds early, and he couldn't close the gap to get his title back. Did he fight bad? No, I don't think he fought bad. I thought Aljo fought great. He got the takedowns when he needed, and Aljamain once again proved that when he gets you to the ground and he is on your back, you are not going anywhere. His top control is second to none. And hats off to Aljo because, Ryan, this dude dealt with some shit, with some stuff. Yeah. He dealt with a lot. He dealt with a lot over the last year because of the way that he won that championship. So if anybody gets to peacock, you know how they say you peacock like this? The Nature Boy used to peacock. You pop your chest out, you peacock. If anybody gets to peacock, it's Aljamain Sterling.
So now, DC, when we look at the division, right? Aljamain Sterling is now the champion. TJ Dillashaw seems like the likely contender or the likely opponent for his first title defense. When you watch the way he was able to fight Petr Yan, and you see the fact that Aljamain Sterling has now won, where do you see both of those guys factoring in to the division? Do you see a long reign at the top for Aljamain Sterling? Does Petr Yan get an immediate shot after the TJ Dillashaw fight if he wins another? Because I feel like because of some of the disrespect to Aljamain Sterling, because of some of the ways people didn't necessarily feel that he was the champion, now there's being questions about the scoring of the fight. Is he going to be treated as the true champion, or do you feel the UFC is going to be looking for that next guy, or for even Petr Yan to get another shot at the title?
I don't think Petr Yan has much work to do. That's one thing I don't believe. When you fight that close, that competitive, and you were the champion, he goes and wins another fight, a big fight, I think he'll be right back in the conversation. Do I anticipate Aljo being the top of the division for a while? Yes, it can happen, because the guy we saw Saturday, the guy we saw with the ability to take down a fantastic wrestler, the way that he switched that, bro, he was 1 for 18 in the first fight.
Yes.
He barely missed takedowns last weekend. He did a great job of securing takedowns and securing positions. So I can see him reigning atop the division for a while if he fights in the way that he did last weekend. Now, TJ Dillashaw will be the guy. And that's another very tough fight for Aljamain Sterling, especially if Dillashaw comes back from his injury 100% clean, healthy, and ready to compete at the highest level. Dillashaw is going to be in great shape. He's going to be ready to fight. He's a former champion. This division is as good as it gets right now. It's exciting, but I don't think much changes after last weekend. I believe Yan is still in play. I believe that Aljo fights Dillashaw, and then we move forward from there.
Well, we know that, Aljamain Sterling, is now just starting his championship reign, especially after a tumultuous year where people felt like he didn't necessarily earn the belt.
Ryan, I gotta ask you a question real quick before we move on. Ryan, did you see Aljo's jacket, that pink jacket?
That joint was fire,
Aljo,
bro.
Hey, dog. I said, what? Hey, Ryan, I'm talking to you because you a stylish brother.
Bro.
You are a stylish brother. How these boys starting to look when they go on for these title fights? I mean, Izzy be looking fire.
DC is different now, bro. It's different. And you know what's so crazy? We were so used to seeing that with boxing, right?
Yeah.
When boxing was the major combat sport, it was a fashion show when these dudes walked into the arena. And I think we're starting to see that too. I mean, Conor was always fresh. Kamaru Usman is always fresh.
Remember Usman with the red Versace suit?
Like, that's what I'm saying, bro. Like these boys are stepping clean. The other thing is this though, DC. When I think about the way that they now enter the arena.
But why his shirt was so open though, Ryan? Like why not button a couple buttons? I don't understand that. You tell me.
DC, because that boy ain't like 2% body fat. If I was 2% body fat, I have my nipples and belly button out too. Hell yeah. No, shit, I'm coming in that thing right now. I can't do that. RC can't do that right now. But back in the day, DC, shoot, I'd have had it all open too. And that was what the crazy thing, when we were texting during the fight though, DC, and I was like, bruh, Aljamain Sterling is in such great shape.
Yes.
Like the way he moved and the amount of movement, the speed, the precision. And he came there, DC, with a plan. And I think that plan in the end, compared to a little bit of Petr Yan's anger, is what got Aljamain Sterling the championship. But a dude that didn't need anger to keep his championship belt, bro, was Alexander Volkanovski.
Man.
It was a virtuoso performance. It was almost, though, it was one of those things, DC, you know how when you're watching the NCAA tournament and then you get these teams that have these upsets, like a 12 seed wins.
Don't be disrespectful.
I'm about to tell you though, like a 12 seed wins or 15 seed wins, and they may win 2 rounds, and then eventually they get up and they're playing number one. And then it becomes talent, right? And then it becomes a mismatch. This fight seemed like a mismatch from the beginning. And the Korean Zombie was game. There was no backup in him. There was no, the moment didn't seem too big. He wasn't scared. He continued to march forward. But Alexander Volkanovski was just too much. And so my question to you, Dan, DC, and he said it even after the fight, like, what's left for this dude to do at 145, bro? Like, who else is there for him? And what should be his next move or the UFC's next move with the champ?
You know what's crazy, RC? I said don't be disrespectful, but then I'm like with you right now because it really was.
Man.
We can't help it because it was a washout. It was not competitive from second number one until the fight was so mercifully stopped. Look,
great stoppage.
We get on these officials for doing things wrong. So in this instance, we got to tip our hat to her for stopping the fight and knowing that Volkanovski was too far ahead of him. There was nothing the Zombie was ever going to be able to do to change the way that this fight was playing out. The talent gap was way too big. And when Volk was on our show last week and he was telling us, I got to get a finish, there's levels, I'm going to put it on this man. It was kind of like, does he just know? Does he know that when it wasn't going to be Max and they had the options and it became the Zombie, like, yo, because I'll be honest with you. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. When I got to fight Volkan for the title, they was like, you gonna fight this Volkan? I'm like, man, what? Y'all still pay me the same? I'm like, if I still get paid the same, like, I'm just being honest, bro. Like, sometimes you just know that these dudes can't go with you. And Zombie could not go with Volkanovski. And he has now proven to be one of the greatest featherweights of all time. And when you look at the division, it's hard to look and find anyone outside of Max Holloway right now that's truly going to challenge this dude. Because Ortega, for as good as he did, dude got dominated. He got beat up bad as that fight went on. So I don't see, man. I don't see the guy that's going to challenge Alex right now, unless we're talking about the Hawaiian, Max Holloway, or maybe Henry Cejudo, who's now trying to throw his name in the hat.
Yeah, I think though, but Alexander Volkanovski has now gotten to that point, right? You know, kind of just when you have this type of winning streak, when you have this type of dominance in a division, and you know, I know this is going to be a little blasphemous and a little sacrilegious. You know, I'm not going to go all Joe Rogan, greatest of all time yet, but you think about Anderson Silva when he was at
it got boring. It got boring.
Right. It got boring. And
got
so
a little bit boring.
Right. So you'd watch him move up to 205 and fight a Forrest Griffith just so you can have some excitement or some reason to really want to tune in to the fight. And I believe other than Max Holloway, that's now where Alexander Volkanovski is. And so he's going to need a Henry Cejudo. He's going to need a step up to maybe fight an Oliveira or a Justin Gaethje if he wins. And he kind of has that latitude because of his success, DC. And not only his success, his utter dominance of what are considered elite level opponents. And I think that's going to be the hard thing for the UFC now is if it's not Max in 145, then it's no one. And so in that, does he just continue to dominate and lap the division, or do they find other fights for him? And I'm sure in Volk's mind, it's like, if you're going to give me these other fights, and if I get these other fights, I need that type of money as well. Is he a big Cejudo? Can the UFC, or how does the UFC make Alexander Volkanovski a big enough draw so he can be one of those guys that becomes that specificity fight type person?
Well, he's the guy, like, he needs to become a guy that if his name's, that's what Anderson had, right? Yes. Regardless of if a fight became a bit boring because it seemed like Anderson was cruising so much, everything that he had, though, was in his name. Because when you put Anderson Silva on the marquee, people paid, people bought the pay-per-view, people tuned in. Volk isn't necessarily there yet. That's why there's 2 title fights on the fight card. That's why you got a Khamzat Chimaev. But if he continues to do what he does now, he can get to that point. Because in terms of a fighter, in terms of fighter skill, in terms of ability, cardio, technical skills, this dude's as good as they come. And that's why you see him so high up the pound-for-pound rankings now. But again, it feels like Max Holloway, or you got to go searching for something that makes sense for Alexander Volkanovski. And you and I both know from last week, Alex will fight the next guy every single time. Next guy up, okay. It's like when you get a WBC or WBO mandatory challenger, and you see Canelo Alvarez standing aside from somebody that you've never heard of because the guy's made his way up the ring.
Because the guy's next, right?
Yeah, like he's next. Volkanovski
Right.
will always do that.
Right.
But by doing that, he'll just continue to lap the division. And the fights will be starting to look very familiar to what we saw last weekend because only the very elite can compete with Alexander the Great. Now, a person that's elite, a person that's won an Olympic gold medal, a person that has won 2 UFC championships with Henry Cejudo. And now it's time to go one round with the champ, maybe another championship, Henry Cejudo. So when you watch bantamweights and you watch featherweights, there's only one guy that plays into the equation in both weight classes. It is our next guest, one of our favorite guests. It's time for one round with Henry Cejudo. So welcome to the segment, DCRC and Triple C, one of our favorite guests of all time, Henry Cejudo. Welcome back, champ. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm finally back, DC. I'm just waiting for you to punch your ticket back into USADA, man.
I'm not going back to USADA, man. I'm burnt meat. I'm well done. I'm overcooked. I'm good where I'm at. Henry, you're in the media a lot, man. You have found a way to stay relevant, even in retirement. But the news that just came out is something that gets people excited. It's what we really want to hear about Henry Cejudo. We don't want to hear about him coaching John Jones, boo. We don't want to hear about the great coach that you've become, even though that's awesome. We want to hear about Henry Cejudo fighting. And after Saturday, you said, you know what? I'm back in USADA. Olympic champ, flyweight champ, bantamweight champ. Now you want to chase a third championship against Alexander Volkanovski. What went into making that decision to get back into the USADA testing pool?
The reality is the opportunity, man, the storylines that are behind that. You know, Aljamain beating Petr Yan, and then TJ potentially fighting for the title next, which I think was going to happen. I mean, you imagine if TJ wins too? I mean, that could set up a big mega fight between both of us. But the person that I really want, because you know, this interview, Cormier, I really just kind of want to share more of me, of Henry Cejudo, as you said, and I'm out there because I believe that nobody at 145 pounds, and it's been proven, dude, that's gonna get past Alexander Volkanovski. So my biggest thing is I want to challenge, man. I want to challenge that nobody believes that I could do it. It's almost like I don't even do it for me, Daniel. Like it's a trip, dude. Like I do it for the people because I know what I'm capable of. You know, I wasn't supposed to win the Olympics. Bro. I wasn't supposed to be Demetrius Johnson. I wasn't supposed to be this ruttered up, TJ Dillashaw. I wasn't supposed to beat Marlon Moraes as an underdog in all these fights. Man, I just I will continue to keep being denied. I think that's kind of what pushes me, Daniel. The simple fact that people don't want to see me win.
Do you ever truly believe that you're an underdog, though, Henry?
Bro,
like you're talking
Ryan,
about these fights. Do you ever believe that you're an
Ryan,
underdog? I can't believe you actually think that and accept that.
I'll be honest. You might be right, RC. I think I'm the big dog, dude. I'm never no underdog. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm the big dog that's a chihuahua. You know what I'm saying? It's like, man, that dude's small, dude. That dude's short. But man, I could pack a punch.
You know what's crazy, Ryan? I had this conversation with somebody yesterday. They were asking me, does Henry have a chance against Volkanovski? And the guy's like, no chance. I go, keep doing this. And then you always got to explain why you're surprised. Because when you pick against Henry Cejudo, he surprises you and he wins. The guy's an absolute winner. And I was going to say that, Henry. It seems like your tone's a little different in this interview. You didn't come out with the pillows. You don't have the jewelry. I feel like I'm talking to the guy from the Olympic Training Center. Honestly, I feel like I'm talking to the guy that actually it's a goal in front of you that you want to try and chase down.
And at the end of the day, that's what it is for me, DC. I am like, when you put the cringe aside, when you put the character aside, when you put the persona aside, like I am the ultimate competitor, man. Like I really do, man. I don't know, you know, I put myself in the category of Michael Phelps, Usain Bolt, Manny Pacquiao, Michael Jordan as a two world world champ, but just as a competitor in general, dude. Like I want to push the limits of the body to places where it's been unknown. You know what I'm saying? So I think that fight with Volkanovski, and I'm gonna give the promo now, dude, because you know, Alexander, like this is me. You've met me before. We've gone out drinking before. We've actually partied before. And at the end of the day, man, if you want this fight, man, you have to ask for it, man. If you want to make money with Triple C, man, we want to give the fights if you want to give the fans a big a big fight, man. I say we fight and we do it in Australia in front of 80,000 people, man. I know Israel Adesanya has a record right now when he fought Robert Whittaker, but wouldn't be nothing like if me and you fought in Australia. I will literally go to your backyard, man, and fight you in your backyard in front of 80,000 people with your record that will never be broken. You can fight this American boy, and I promise you, man, I will take your head off in front of your own people, dude. And that's not the cringe. That's not the persona. That's Henry Cejudo talking. So come on, man. Let's make this happen. If you really want to fight me, man, let's make it happen and tell Dana why you want that fight. Don't tell me I'm not proven, man. Don't tell me that he's done nothing at featherweight. I'm right here, bro. I'm the Olympic champ. I was the youngest in history to ever win an Olympic gold medal. I beat the greatest of all time at Demetrius Johnson, man. I defended both of my UFC titles. Bro, come on. Let's do it, dude. Let's do it, man. And it's no persona aside, man. This is Henry Cejudo talking to you right now. Sign that damn dotted line, dude. Plain and simple.
Hey, Henry, straight up though, man. Listen, you know, DC talked about being burnt, burnt chicken. Listen, I'm burnt fish. I'm a pescatarian. I'm burnt fish. And ain't nobody eating no hard salmon. But you've been retired for a while, and you've gotten into coaching, and you're a great coach. What makes you have the confidence that you can come back and fight on the level of an Alexander Volkanovski? You're not stepping in and just trying to put your toe in the water. You're diving in head first like a Michael Phelps. What makes you feel like you're ready to be at that elite level right out of the gate like that?
Because of my IQ, my experience, the fact that I've stayed in the game. You know what I mean? It's not like I've been away from the game. Like I've been in the game. Like I've had a chance to really dissect me. It's not like I'm the only thing that I haven't really done well, RC, I'll be honest with you, man, is that Mexican food, man. You know what I'm saying? Hey, DC ain't the only one that likes Popeye's chicken. Triple C does too. You know what I'm saying? So that being said, the only thing that I really haven't really taken care of has just been my weight. I'm 165 pounds, 170 sometimes. Man, that cut would be perfect, man, because you trim off all that fat, man, just like that bone. He's only a couple inches taller than me. It's a very winnable fight. And I love the fact that I could become the first division champ, because we all know America's sweetheart, Conor McGregor, that blue-eyed devil. Dana White, he's gonna be the first one to get that crack at the 3 belts. But man, this one's gonna be earned. This one's earned for me, I believe. As a 2-sport world champ. Can I repeat it one more time, guys? The Olympic champ, the flyweight champ, and the bantamweight champion of the world, defending both of my belts. Alexander Volkanovski said he wants to fight 155 pounds. Dude, you ain't proven at 155 pounds either. I defended both of my belts. I retired on that Monday, guys. So at the end of the day, man, I'm coming after his head. I really am, dude. As a competitor, as a challenger, as a history maker. So I hope Dana White, the UFC, all these fans get behind it, because this isn't the king of cringe, man. This is Henry Cejudo speaking right now. And Alexander Volkanovski. If you want this, dude, come and get it. Let's do it in your backyard of Melbourne, Australia. Let's sell it out, dude. How big is that stadium, dude? But I will make sure, dude. I will make sure to leave with your head back to America, man, and reclaim my stake.
Wow. Honestly, Henry, that would be massive to go to Australia to watch you guys fight for championship with you chasing history once again. But when we go back a little bit, Henry, and we watch him fight a guy that you trained, that you helped to train in the Korean Zombie on Saturday, what did he do that impressed you? What did he do that left the masses just with their jaws dropped, because he looked like an absolute world beater? This fight was not competitive in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So what makes you look at him and go, hey, man, this type of guy I want to be competing against, even though I know I can beat him, but he will bring the best out of me?
Well, it's because of my IQ, DC. It's my experience, man. I'm not gonna let this dude close like that. Like, dude, his reach is so longer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, first of all, I wouldn't let him in like that. Two, I would dictate the pace, man. I'm a different athlete in there, and it was kind of what Zombie didn't do, man. That was the first thing that I brought up at camp that I didn't like. The same reason why I wasn't in the corner, man. You know what I mean? I helped the Korean Zombie, but I wasn't like spearheading that camp. I base my things off of 3 things, Daniel. I call it position, composure, and distance. And the one thing that I didn't like about Zombie at the beginning of the camp was his position. The number one thing, he leans too heavy on that front leg. He almost gets a little squared, and I just don't think it's good, man. Because by the time you do get out, DC, you're out, but you already took in 5-6 punches, man, before you get out. You know what I'm saying? So I recognize a lot of things that he could have done right, but he didn't. But I would be able to have the ability to right those wrongs. You know what I'm saying? There's too much tape on him. There is too much tape for someone like Alexander. If you watch all my fights, DC, like how do you describe my style of fighting, dude? I'm a technical savage, man. You never know what I'm going to bring up. I'm going to rush you. I'm going to kick you. I'm going to strike you. You know what I mean? So I like my odds. I really do. But I'm not saying Alexander is a killer. I will tell you that right now. But the same reason, whatever makes my heart pump, DC, is the same reason why I want to fight him. So I have a question for you, Daniel. Who do you want to see Alexander Volkanovski? And I know Max Holloway is your boy. But you want to see a third fight like that? Would you like to see this
Well, my whole deal is, so for me as a fan and Ryan too, honestly, I think the question would be better for Ryan, right? Because Ryan is the person that we are trying to involve in the fight, right? The guy that, even though he's a professional athlete, he is a fan of the sport from the outside. For me, I believe that Max Holloway, if you're not in there, is the only one that can compete with him.
Yeah.
Because he has really distanced himself. So I honestly believe that question is better suited, Henry, for Ryan Clark. Because Ryan is the target audience. He is the guy that you're trying to draw in. So
DC, you're about to be you're about to run for politics, huh? Dude, that's a question.
What you mean? I'm just being honest. Like, Ryan,
I
are you
have
not the
6
target?
months.
No, I think
I have 6 months, DC, before I jump in there, dude.
Yeah.
Who else is going to challenge him? Who else has the capability of beating him, dude?
Outside of Max Holloway, I don't think anybody at featherweight can really compete with him.
But even if Max Holloway wins, DC, I want him too. I'm after that belt, bro. Like I really am, dude. Max Holloway, that size, I'm not afraid of that, dude. And the beginning, I never really called out Holloway just for the simple fact because of the length. But as I started studying the sport and really took my time with it, I'm just like, hey, I think that would be they're both going to be tough fights, but I can see myself having a better probability even with Holloway just because of the stats, man. And that's all I got to say. Just because of the length. Sometimes when you have so much body, there's so much opportunity too.
There you go, RC.
No, listen. Well, exactly. But when I look at it though, right, we were waiting on the Max fight. Max was supposed to be fighting. Obviously, the Korean Zombie steps in, and Alexander Volkanovski absolutely dominates him. And then we get to see, Aljamain Sterling really shock the world and dominate Petr Yan, especially taking him down those 2 rounds in a row, which I thought one was a 10-8 round. When you sit outside and you're watching these things take place in the octagon, do you feel like you're a cut above a lot of the champions or few of the champions at the smaller weight? Do you feel you could beat an Aljamain Sterling or a TJ Dillashaw if he's there? Do you feel you beat an Alexander Volkanovski and the Max Holloway right out of the gate? You get your 6 months, you're in your side of that long, you come out, Dana White gives you a fight. Should we expect you, or do you expect yourself? Why do you expect yourself to be a guy that can hold that championship belt? Because outside of Max Holloway, the only fight that would interest us at that size would be you. And it would be the storyline, and it would be the fact that you're a 2-division champion. But are you still that type of elite level MMA fighter?
Oh, of course, man. When I think of 135 pounds, you know what I think of, RC? The first one that comes to mind is easy money. I'm gonna go out there, rob the bank, and that's it. That's what I see, man. I've said it before. RC, DC, you guys saw what I said about Petr Yan. He lost. He lost because of the grappling, because of the wrestling. Man, I'm a whole nother level, man. Like my shots, my takedowns are second to none. Ain't nobody in the UFC has my type of wrestling. Nobody. So this is the only reason why I'm after Volkanovski. And I'm really not even after Volkanovski, man. At this point, man, I'm after that third belt.
I mean, well, there you have it, DC. A little more humble, less cringe Henry Cejudo, which tells me that that's a dude that truly has his mind on getting another gold wrapped around his waist. But you know what time it is, DC?
What time is it, dog?
It's time to tap in, tap out, brother.
Let's go.
You know what it is? Where's Corporate Jake?
What's up, fellas?
What's up, Jake?
What's up, brother?
All right, guys. So this past Saturday, Mackenzie Dern secured a big win over a top 5 contender in Tisha Torres. Dern continues to showcase she is one of the best BJJ artists in the strawweight division. So DC, tap in or tap out that Dern is an immediate title contender at 115 pounds.
Immediate, I have to tap out because we saw in the Marina Rodriguez fight that if you can stop the takedowns and force her to stand, she's still too green. to be able to compete with the highest level strikers. And when you get to Rose Namajunas and you get to Zhang
Yeah.
Weili and now Joanna Jędrzejczyk, who's back, that is an absolute problem. So can she build herself into a contender? Yes. But immediately, no, I have to tap out.
Yeah, I'm tapping out. I'm tapping out as well. When you're watching her fight against Tisha Torres this weekend, you know, as long as it's on the feet, that she has trouble. And the striking is not at the level of some of those names that DC mentioned. And also, these are women who understand grappling, who understand staying out of submissions, who understands how to, you know, how to defend takedowns. And so if you have to stand with the Rose Namajunas or a Zhang Weili, I think she has a ton of trouble, and she isn't ready for that caliber of champion or opponent, especially watching her last two fights.
All right, another winner from Saturday night was rising prospect Ian Gary. While he did not secure another flashy knockout, he did keep that 0 in the loss column intact. So RC, tap in or tap out on people saying Ian Gary's performance on Saturday was lackluster.
So I tap in for this reason. What's the reason Khamzat Chimaev at number 11 got to fight Gilbert Burns?
Because he was
because
blazing through guys.
Because he was blazing through guys. And so it's lackluster in the sense of it doesn't make you want to see Ian Gary fast track to an opportunity to fight for a title. You don't want to see him fast track in an opportunity to fight a top 5 guy because you don't necessarily believe that that's a level of competition he can handle. I think it kind of puts you, and obviously Alex Pereira's last fight against Silva, I think was better than Ian Gary's. He was able to be tested, and we watched him show mettle, you know, with the way he finished in the 3rd round. And, you know, he's getting a shot against a guy like a Sean Strickland. I don't believe Ian Gary has given us enough of that where we put him in the top 5, top 6 battle. And that's why it's a lackluster performance if you're looking for the next Conor McGregor.
I think that's why. And that's why you got to tap out, because people believe that he is the next coming of Conor. He's a guy that can talk. But you know what's a little bit different about Ian Gary? And I like Ian Gary, but Conor told you how great he was. It was almost as if it was almost endearing. Like, you're like, oh my God, I want to hear more from this guy.
Right.
Ian Gary talks, and it's like, but you shouldn't talk so much just yet, Ian Gary. It's almost, it kind of hits you a little bit different in the way that and Ian's a great kid. I'm going to golf with him very soon. But it's like, I don't know what it is, man. It just feels different. And sometimes it's just something in you that you can't really explain. When I see him on the mic and the post-fight interview goes a little long, the point doesn't come across as clean as Conor. But in terms of the performance, I think it was fine. Problem is, you're judging him against what he did the first time. And that's impossible. Yes. You cannot expect these guys to do this over and over again.
But isn't that what was so amazing about Khamzat Chimaev early on though, was that you could expect him to do that every time.
But that's he's the outlier, right? That can go through 4 fights and do stuff like that and do it back to back to back to back and look more impressive every time. When he knocked out Gerald Meerschaert, it was like, are you kidding me? Like, it was like, are you kidding me? But now it's like Ian Gary, unfortunately, is being judged against those guys because remember, look what Paddy Pimblett just did. Paddy not only got a knockout, then he got a submission. Now he got another young hot prospect that goes and gets a decision, and it's somehow frowned upon. When in reality, he did okay. It's fine. I just think he needs to tighten up those like post-fight skills a little bit.
All right, guys, last one. This coming weekend, Vicente Luque and Bilal Muhammad face off in a rematch 7 years in the making, except this time both men are ranked in the top 5. So DC, tap in or tap out. The winner of Luque Muhammad puts himself in title contention at welterweight.
You see, that's where it becomes interesting because yes, they do, but there's still work to be done because we know it's Usman and Edwards. Sounds like we want Khamzat versus Colby, but what if Colby goes, there's no reason for me to fight this guy unless I get Usman again. And it's like, well, we can't guarantee a third fight when you've lost the first 2. Now, the winner of this fight on Saturday could be looking at maybe facing Khamzat Chimaev. Like, it's getting very interesting in the welterweight division. So, yes, they will put themselves in contention with one more hurdle to cross before they find themselves across from the champion, whoever that may be.
Yeah, I tap in. I think depending on how the fight goes, though, I don't know if they're one step away from getting an opportunity to fight the champ. And that's what's so crazy when you have a dominant champ like Kamaru Usman, is that when you can beat Kobe Covingtons and when you can beat the Gilbert Burns of the world, the Jorge Masvidals, it's not like these dudes are bad fighters. You know, like there are going to be people that says the winner of Luque Muhammad is not better than those dudes, right? And they're going to have to fight the Chimaevs and the Burns and the Covingtons and the Edwards. And so I think they put themselves in contention talks, but just winning this fight doesn't necessarily say that these dudes are championship contenders right now.
No, it won't be enough. They'll have to cross one more hurdle in order to get to where they're ultimately trying to get. But hey, long as you're on the short list, especially in the UFC, you never know if all of a sudden you're number 4 and you get a title shot. I saw it last week with the Zombie. Number 4 fighting it for the championship. So the moment you're in the top 5, you have an opportunity. Ryan, last week was fun. Having the show back consistently is always fun. But I got an idea I want to pitch to Corporate Jake. With these boys, like you said, stepping so fly. I love that term, Ryan. We should do a segment, Step and Fly with Ryan Clark every week. I'm not the type of guy that should be judging people's wardrobe. But my boy Ryan Clark definitely knows how to dress. I think we should take these dudes when they show up to these pay-per-views, dress like they dress, and we rating these outfits, Ryan.
Hey, I'll rate the outfit. The only way I'll do it, DC, is if you get your people to get me one of them sweatshirts.
You like that?
Get one of those, hey, if I can get one of those,
One Life Prince, Gilroy, California, they take care of me.
Hey, man, I love it. But, man, this has been a great show, bro. I
Yep.
appreciate you. I'm glad to be back weekly. I'll see you soon. I'll be in Arizona for the next pay-per-view. Get to watch a little Oliveira, Justin Gaethje. But until then, man, go get your golf stroke right. Enjoy yourself. I am RC. That is DC. We are DC and RC. We're going to holler at y'all.